What is up, and welcome back to the Inside the Diamonds podcast. I am your host tonight, Chris, and I am not alone. Oh, no, 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 no. Guess who's back? It is JC. We are
Hey,
back
CJ.
again.
Hey, CJ, how you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Good to be back. Again, as I mentioned, apologize for the past, month between the vacation and work hitting our busy season. I've been pulling a lot more work duty and trying to pitch in around the house for the father duties. But glad to be back. A lot going on, a lot I've missed. Thanks for carrying the load while I've been gone. You've done a great job. I enjoyed listening and glad to be back talking some baseball. A lot going on. We're right about at the halfway point with the All-Star game next week. Um, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. Probably won't get to them all tonight. I know that you've got a lot you want to talk about. And I figured with the holiday just past us and something we've talked about, I'd let you take the floor and kind of tell us what you thought of the 4th of July presentation by Major League Baseball,
So, I'm going to rant because I'm
or
pissed.
lack thereof, I should say.
Yeah. So, the 4th of July, this is prime baseball season. I mean, you got your All Star game, what, a week away, week and a half away. And you look at other sports. Now, yes, it's changed a little bit, but NBA had Christmas. They put their
Mm-hmm.
best marquee games on Christmas Day. Now the NFL has kind of chipped in at that. Now we get a Wednesday NFL game this year, but the NFL has Thanksgiving. And
Yep.
do with it what you will, but hockey has, for the most part, I don't think NBA does it, but Martin Luther King Day, they have games um, playing on 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock,
Yep.
7 o'clock, and then also they have Hockey Day in America. So I mean, there's hockey those 2 days nonstop, and baseball, you're the floor. And once July hits, you are the floor. To not have a single nationally televised game, I mean, granted, for me and you, it doesn't really matter. We can watch MLB TV, but to not, show off your talent that you have in the league is a missed opportunity. So much so that I went through the slate of the schedule because I've been making the graphics now, the full slate schedules for each day. You could have had this perfectly set up where, not even saying you did it on all the same networks. Like you could have one on MLB Network, one on ESPN, one on FS1, Fox Sports, whatever. You could have had Nationals Mets at 11:30, tradition, that Nationals
Yep.
game at 11:30.
Yeah, why not? That makes perfect sense.
That's in the one game that was at least nationally televised. You got Reds Yankees. You could have put at 1. Orioles Mariners at 4:10.
Yeah.
Giants Braves 7:20, and then you have D-backs Dodgers at 9:10. You could have owned that whole day. Now, granted, yes, people are outside, doing stuff, but come 7:20, people are home. They're relaxing for the most part. I was. I mean, I have a almost 2-year-old. We're home. 11:35, people aren't out at their cookout yet. There's your prime opportunity to put games on. It's just an absolutely missed opportunity, and the ball was dropped by MLB in this case, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, here's another thing. You said that most people are outside. I was trying to watch the Red Sox game on my phone. I was watching games, and a lot of other people, the group I was with, we're always kidding around about either building a smoke shack for my smokers and putting a TV in there and having a tabletop bar so the guys can be sitting there watching whatever they want for sports.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more people. Yes, you can be outside, but people have taken their sports and their passions outside of their living rooms, whether it be phone, tablet, outdoor TVs. Now, all of a sudden, I saw a lot of my friends watching the NBA Finals outside on
Mm-hmm.
those projected screens.
Mm-hmm.
They missed a huge opportunity. And I love the idea of the Nationals on the 4th of July always having that 11:30 game, 11 o'clock game, whatever it may be, and have it be home.
Yeah, yeah.
It's, I mean,
You
when
could
you
have owned
think
the day.
Thanksgiving, when you're all with family, right? Everyone's with family, everyone's busy. 4th of July is the same thing, except you're outside. It's still loud, you can't hear anything, but what's on in the background? Always
Football,
football games.
always.
They missed a huge opportunity. Not just in the other part of it is the All-Star game is coming right after. right? So that's when everyone gets to see these superstars that maybe they don't get to watch. So put them on all these channels that aren't blacked out so people can see different games on so that they can get to know some of these players.
That's why I even went as I was going through. I picked the games I picked because you're showcasing all of your talent. You know,
Yep.
with the Nationals and the Mets, you just had James Wood called up for the Nationals. You
Mm-hmm.
have the Mets have Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso. The Reds, you can showcase Ellie De La Cruz going against Aaron Judge. You can showcase Juan Soto. You know, Orioles, Mariners, two teams that Orioles are good. It's both division leaders.
Yep.
Like you're showcasing a high premier game at 410. Giants Braves, you have talent on both teams there. D-backs Dodgers, you're showcasing Shohei. Like there's a top name in every single game that I put that schedule together for.
This is nothing we'll come up with tonight. I would love to see what Nathan's hot dog eating contest does for like commercial ratings.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? There's still commercial ratings for companies out there. It's I'm sure people pay a lot for the Super Bowl. Obviously, we know, but like during Thanksgiving, because you got Black Friday coming, shortly. You know what I mean? So there's definitely money to be made there, and we all know that it's a business, and we know that when it comes down to it, bottom dollar talks. So it's just a missed opportunity, and maybe it's just us because we're deep involved in baseball, but we'd love to see what the rest of you all think. Did MLB drop the ball on the 4th of July? Or did you care or don't you care? Maybe we're just spouting off and we feel differently than everyone else. I don't believe so because I had the same conversation with somebody at work yesterday. Or no, sorry, Friday.
I had the Red Sox game on my phone for the extra innings, but I was score checking because nothing else was on. I mean, granted, like I
Yeah, my
said,
phone died.
I have MLB TV, so like I could watch it, but you know, I was trying to hang out with the family. I could listen to anything. Like I could throw any game on my phone and still listen. I don't have to
Yep.
watch all the time, but just to have something would have been nice. And I think it was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's too bad. I think we've talked a lot about some of the stuff that they could have done differently so far this year. The futures games, early on in spring training, what they could have done there, and then the 4th of July. I don't see why not doing it just like you do opening day, in my opinion, just like you laid out.
Yep.
Mine
I
as
mean,
well. So
for the most part, opening day, I feel like it's all ESPN. Like ESPN just owns the rights to that. But this is one where you could have staggered it out. I mean, you could have owned the whole day even more so and put a game at one. Like there was a couple games at 110. You could have put on like MLB Network and ESPN, and like flip back and forth. It's just
so
it's
he, so here's the way ESPN gets around it. ESPN has the All Star game. So MLB and
they have the
ESPN work
Derby.
something out. They have the Derby. Fox has the
I
All Star game, right?
I didn't know
So
if
they
that
all
changed.
get together, and no matter where it's being shown on national TV, whether it be is that ESPN commercials for the Home Run Derby
Hmm.
are on that network for this
Yep.
one day, and the All Star game.
Hmm.
There's ways of making this better for everyone around. Now, everyone knows baseball. The Home Run Derby's on Monday.
Yep.
It's on ESPN, and then the All Star games the following Tuesday night. That hasn't changed since I don't know when.
Yeah.
I'm 40 and I can remember it as a kid.
I can remember. Yeah.
So that's a drop ball, and I think that obviously there's a lot more that we could go into there. I love the layout that you played for what could have been, but it leads right into kind of a topic with the all-star rosters coming out. I know that on ITD we've been posting by team who's been who's going to play, who's not going to play, uh, specifically for teams. So I wanted to ask you, did you have a snub in mind, or two snubs, or anyone that you thought
I have quite a
should have
few of.
made the teams?
I have quite a few that I'm intrigued by. I'm going to
Okay.
start off with the first one. Clay Holmes.
Yeah.
Now, he's been good this year. Don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but they put him in over his own teammate, Luis Heel, who, granted, yes, he's had what 3 bad starts and looked fantastic last night against the Red Sox,
Yeah.
but he's been talked to the AL Cy Young, like Rookie of the Year, like all year. How do you not put him in? But I get it. If you want to go with the reliever route, Craig Kimbrell, like
Yeah.
The guy's made in his last 21 appearances. I believe I saw today. He's only allowed one earned run.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote back in, I think it was May. We even talked about it on here that the Orioles needed relieving help, and that was their biggest thing.
Yeah.
And now I don't think they do. Now it's a different shift, which we'll get into a little while later. But another one that goes into the Clay Holmes conversation is Kenley.
Yeah.
Kenley, I think you could have put in there over Clay Holmes. Would I put him over Kimbrel? No.
Yeah.
Little intrigued on. I'll go right to the next one, which was Cole Reagans over Luis Heel. Cole's been good, but I didn't think that the Royals warranted having two starting pitchers over. Like, if anything, if Walker was healthy, okay, maybe I see the conversation for Walker because he
Yeah.
had great until he got hurt. But I don't see Cole Reagans as an option.
Yep.
I don't know if this is going to tie into any of yours because we didn't, meet up and talk
I
about.
haven't shared with you, and I'm patiently waiting.
I got what? I got three more. So the other
Oh
one, I
shit.
Luis Ariz over Bryce Terang. Terang's been.
Yeah.
Everybody has to talk about the WAR, and in this case, and I agree with a lot of the people I've listened to today about this. Of WAR also, what's the word I'm looking for? Contains your defensive WAR as well. And the All Star game, they don't really care about defense. So
Yeah.
people talk about the WAR, and the WAR is not as big of a thing for the All Star game. But Terang's been, I think, better than Ariz this year, and I don't know why the Padres have been good, but I don't know why they got as many, All Star game candidates as they did. I mean, their whole outfield's there.
Yeah.
Granted,
I mean, I get Profar,
I don't know if Tatis is
but
going to play.
no, it doesn't sound like it. But that all subject to change anyway. But
The next one, and this was, I can tie this three different ways, and I've heard it all day. Everywhere I've listened has talked about this. The Francisco Lindor snub. They put, and I agree with everything I've listened to today on this, is why Pete Alonso? Everybody says Christian Walker, which I agree. Christian Walker has been great
yeah.
this year and very underrated.
Yep.
That whole team's really underrated. Like, they haven't been great, but Ketel Marte is very underrated. Christian Walker's underrated. But a lot of what I've heard was they did it more along the lines of they needed a representative for the Mets,
Yeah.
and it sounds like they can't get people to do the home run derby. And so Pete Alonso said he'd only do it if he was an all-star. So it sounds to me
Yeah.
like that's the only reason Pete Alonso is an all-star, and he's the Mets representative because they need somebody for the home run derby. Now, at the end of the day, this all changes. We know about what 10, 15 names are going to get added to this because people either can't play because they pitched
Yep.
like Saturday or Sunday, and then you're going to have injuries. Like the reason why I think Lindor is going to be there is Mookie's hurt, and Mookie's not going to be there. So who's going to replace him
Yep.
at shortstop? Lindor. So I mean, realistically, he's going to be.
That's where we differ.
Who do you got?
I got Mason Wynn.
Interesting.
Probably the best. And again, you said, but when you said defense doesn't really necessarily get factored in, he's hitting over 280. He's probably maybe the best defensive shortstop in the National League right now. He's a rookie, and he's been playing really well. He's hitting the ball. He's getting on base, stealing a few bags. I thought that him and my two were Wynn and Terang, because I didn't go too in depth because, like you said, I know that when it comes to pitching, I know that there's going to be players that will get swapped in. The bigger one for me was Duran. I really thought Duran should have got the start.
Yeah, I think as fans we screwed him. I mean, the fact he was in the top 20 after the first ballot came out really just ruined it.
Well, here's the other one that I was thinking when looking at it. Trey Turner, is he an all-star? Yes. He's played in 51 games.
Yep.
Wynn's played in 82. Terang's played in 87. Lindor's played in at least 75, if not more than that, without looking at it quick.
I voted Lindor every single time I voted.
That was I just don't see if you're going to have fans vote, something has to come into effect unless there has to be some sort of level. Yes, he's played in more than probably 60% of the games, but it was just tough to see Trey Turner getting the start and only playing 51 games. Not saying he's not worthy, but in terms of the game itself, some of these guys getting a start. And then to me, how much does it really matter? Because Ellie De La Cruz could have gotten the start too.
It's another one too you could think of.
But then in my article, I kind of was writing about De La Cruz is probably going to come in the tail end of the game, right? He's going to finish the game out.
Mm-hmm.
So what a perfect storybook for him to, walk, get a single, no one on in front of him, steals second, steals third, and then manufactures his own run. You know what I mean? Sack fly, ground out, whatever it is. That's what he's been doing for the Reds. So that's, Mason Wynn belongs there. I don't think the start by any means. I think De La Cruz, just because of hype and everything, that was the big one other than the Duran, in my opinion, because the pitching I didn't necessarily worry too much about, just simply due to the fact of, like you said, there's going to be a lot of guys that just aren't going to go. Either they have an injury or they just pitched. So it's more the position players, but the ones you brought up for pitching make a total lot of sense to me in regards to, and they were in my head too. Do they belong? This guy's better. Kimbrel, especially, just due to the fact of remembering back how we were concerned with him. And now he's been kind of back to shades of who he was back when he was really lights out, one of the top closers in the game.
Yeah, and I got one more.
Okay.
The last one I'm surprised about, and it's not really a snub. It's just I'm surprised that David Fry got the DH nod for the AL behind Alvarez over Brent Rooker. I mean, David Fry's been fantastic. He's been a key cog for the Cleveland Guardians, but I thought
how much of that comes into the team's records?
Right. At the end of the day, once they said Mason Miller is getting the Oakland A's representative, then it's got to be that's it. That's their lone guy.
He's been on fire the past 15 days.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question for you, though, since we're in the All-Star Game competition.
Mm-hmm.
Pick your starter for each side.
National League. Oh, Nola got snubbed, but that's not who I would have started. It's between Wheeler. It's between Wheeler, Shota, and Skeens. And I'm trying to keep the idea of Wheeler's on a team that is in first place. Skeens is the Shota and Skeens are both rookies.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking Shota's April versus his May and June, I would have leaned Shota over Skeens just because of coming from overseas. But I would really, for the game and for Pittsburgh, and just because he hasn't faltered, I would probably give it to Skeens. He won't get it probably just due to the fact that he'll probably follow I would assume Wheeler, but I would not bat an eye if they chose to go with Skeens in the National League.
Either of your other two. Skeens I had. The other two I did not even have as my thought.
Okay. Scooble's my guy in the American League just because I'm a fan like you are of him, and there's no one really else.
Corbin Burns is about it.
Yeah, and I guess I think Skeens has done better with less.
Tanner Houck has played himself out of the American League job.
Unfortunately,
it was his, but I think he played out of it. The National League, I had Skeens, but then I had three other ones.
Okay.
I had Tyler Glasnow, just because of the Dodgers hype and all of that. But then the other two were in Atlanta, where you could go Chris Sale. But the big one is, why not Reynaldo Lopez? He's been so surprising. He has the best ERA in baseball. Like, realistically, if you look at the numbers, one of the best pitchers in baseball and hasn't wavered.
No.
And so realistically, you reward that to the guy who's been the best pitcher for the first half.
Who deserves it, correct, yeah.
Right. So I think it would be Lopez. But I think, realistically, for the eyes and for the glamour of the game, you have to go Skeens.
Yeah.
I think Skeens versus Skubal to start the All-Star game would be
Do you think they do it?
I think if they do, you're only getting one inning out of him.
Mm. Yeah,
It
no, I
also
agree with that.
the question also becomes too is he going? Because he's another one. I think he lines up to pitch this weekend.
Does he pitch Saturday?
It might be. I don't know. They keep bumping him every time. Like they sometimes save him for home games just to
Which
sell
is
tickets.
yeah. So here's back to the Lopez, like, because I agree wholeheartedly, and honestly, when thinking about it, I didn't really consider him, but and this is stupid, but how often have you seen a number 4 or 5 starter get the start? I don't. It's similar to the Rooker,
Yeah.
the ace record. Does he deserve to be there? Sure. But if Mason Miller was left out and he's the lone representative, then you got people screaming about that. Rightfully, they both belong there
Yep.
because of what they've done for their teams, but their record holds them back. And that's where I was thinking about Lopez is he was number 5 to start the year. How much does that come into play when it shouldn't at all? But it kept me from talking about him.
Yeah. He popped into my head right away with the ERA.
Yeah. He's been Chicago's probably like, you son of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
But when you have I wonder, it would be interesting to talk or hear more about the psyche of a major league pitcher when you know what you have around you and you don't have to be perfect. And you can just pitch, right?
Yep. Yep.
If you have all the talent in the world, but you're pressing and you're trying to be perfect, an inch here, an inch there, ball or strike, makes a difference in the world. And then it just kind of snowballs on you. You know what I mean? And if you get behind early, 1-2 runs, you try to tighten down now because you don't think your team can score more than that.
Yeah.
So that it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens over the next. The next 3-4 days. You'll see some new additions, some people bowing out. I get the bowing out as a pitcher if you've just thrown, because it's different than the Pro Bowl, right?
Yep.
Pro Bowl injury, sure, I get it. But if you're voted in the Pro Bowl and you just don't go because you want to be done with football, I'm sorry. That to me is something that you should go or something. Baseball's a little different for pitchers, or if you're injured, because they have half their season left. So it'll be very interesting. I would love to see Skeens get the start. And the question is, if he goes out and gets 1, 2, 3, do they pull and let him go to second inning?
No. Pittsburgh won't let him. They're already talking about.
Never
We'll
mind.
get
That's
to it.
right.
We'll get to it later, but they're already talking about an innings limit on him now. So
Would they be doing that if they were climbing up the leaderboard in the Central?
actually, probably.
Probably just because they're so
didn't-
keen on future.
Didn't Washington do it with Strasburg? Didn't they shut him down even though they were still in the race?
I think so. I just can't recall. That's a name from the past that seems like it wasn't that long ago, but a long time ago.
Dominant.
Now, yeah,
5 years ago.
yep. Okay. Any other snubs or anything else you want to talk about with the All-Star game?
Nope.
I think it'll be interesting. It's gonna have a different feel to it, I think, just because there's some younger stars. There's some, a lot of injuries this year. A lot of the names you are used to seeing that won't be there. But I think it's funny and interesting if that holds true about Alonso. If the home run derby holds that much weight and you can't get guys to do it, then you have to redo the derby a different way. Some sort of incentive, because you can't have someone hold hostage and keep somebody else out of the game. That's not right. And if that comes to be true statement, and that's actually what happened, then shame on baseball. All right. So now the All-Star game is covered, done with. Who are your hot and cold teams going into this All-Star break right now that you'd like to talk about?
You want me to do one, then you do one, and we'll go back
Yeah,
and forth?
sure.
All right.
Yeah, that works.
The first one I'll start with is the cooler of the two hot teams I have, and I'll start with the Baltimore Orioles. Last week, 4-2. They've been 8-3 since June 26th, and they're right back in the American League East lead. and they're building that lead with the Yankees' struggles. So now we're full throttle with the Orioles, and then we're seeing the team that they should have been all year long and holding that division lead, and it's really been the pitching. I mean,
Yeah.
over that course of that span, you got Grace Rodriguez 3-0 in 3 starts, a 2.33 ERA, an under a 1 WHIP, and a 9.3 K per nine. They really need him to step up with the losses they've had in Bradish and Means.
Yep.
Corbin Burns, 2 starts, 1-0, 2.08 ERA, just above a 1 WHIP, and a 7.6 K per nine. And the other one that's really stepped up is Albert Suarez. 2 starts, he's 2-0.
Yep.
150 ERA, a 0.67 WHIP, and a 6 K per nine. And then the lineup is just clicking. 265 average combined, 789 OPS, 17 home runs in the span, 51 runs scored, 48 RBIs, and a 123 weighted runs created plus. The lineup is just, I mean, you expect it with all those names, but now it seems like they're all doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's guys, I've seen people saying, I want Santander gone or Mullins. Those are guys you could have talked about as snubs for the All-Star game, too.
Yeah.
And I mean, Orioles fans are rightfully pissed about the All-Star game where they only have 3 representatives. They should have more.
Yep. Correct.
But,
Agreed.
All right, so who's your hot team?
So I'll follow suit and do my colder of my two. And mine's San Diego Padres. And offensively, they are third in the National League over the last 15 days with 70 runs scored. They've got 17 home runs, and they're hitting 278 as a team. Now, we were just talking about them as a team and their representatives for the All-Star game and the outfield being mainly there. And for me, their last 15 days, and I'm sorry, I've got it all had it all pulled up, but their team is being led by Machado. He's got 5 home runs, 12 RBIs. Kyle Higashioka. Yeah, Shioka there. I butchered that. Sorry about that. The catcher there. He's only played 9 games, but he's got 4 home runs and 13 RBIs, hitting 333. Profar still hitting just under 300. Jackson Merrill has 11 RBIs and 2 home runs and is hitting 286. Of course, Luis Arias, 292. And the guy that has been playing kind of filling in for Bogarts, Donovan Solano, hitting 326. Only 6 RBIs, 15 hits, 5 doubles, and 7 runs scored. Machado's just been leading that team with 10 runs scored. And then, of course, you got Jake Cronenworth, who gets on base and scores when he does. But the team just seems to be doing well. This is without Bogarts and without Tatis right now.
Yep.
Hitting-wise. Pitching, on the other hand.
You didn't even name Profar. You didn't even mention Profar.
Yeah, I did. I mentioned Profar just hitting just under 300. I mean, he's been him, which I put him out there for a lot of teams to grab to play, but I also thought he was going to be the odd man out for the Padres this year. So the last 15 days, their pitching staff as a whole, they've got Michael King with 2 wins, ERA 1.59 in 2 starts. They've got Cease, who's 1-2. They haven't really looked good as a starting rotation as a whole, but when you look at their team pitching stats as a whole, it's been really, truly the offense that's been carrying them with those runs scored. Because pitching stats wise, ERA, where'd they go? Well, that didn't work for me. I had it up. They're middle of the road. They're 11th actually in ERA at a 4.58, but they're 8-4. Their pitching staff's 8-4 over the last 15 games. They're not really lighting it on fire. They've got 3 saves and 5 save opportunities. It's really been their runs scored. They've given up 55 and they've got a differential of 16 right now, which has helped them offensively. So the Padres are a team, and I brought them up simply because the rest of that division seems to be underperforming.
Mm-hmm.
And the National League as a whole, after you've got the division leaders, the wild cards up for grabs, which we'll talk about later. So who's your hot team?
The Boston Red Sox. And it's because, I mean, we could talk about last week. Yeah, they went 5-1, but swept the Marlins. You got to take care of the bad teams. Going to the Bronx against one of the best teams in baseball. Granted, since June 15th, they haven't been. I think they're 5-15, something like that. And you swept. You took 2 or 3 from them. And then I'm including the series finale against the Padres, where they've been 6-1 in their last 7.
Yeah.
And the lineup combined hitting 242, 725 at OPS, 11 home runs, 36 RBIs, 37 runs scored. And it's always something about that team. It's somebody struggles, somebody picks the other guy up.
Yep.
So for the longest time for the season, Duran was one of the hottest players, carried the Red Sox for a little while. He's cold. Devers in the last 7 games, 393 average with a 1.378 OPS, 4 home runs, 8 runs scored, 12 RBIs. Somebody's coming in and picking somebody up. And I'm going to rant as a Red Sox fan for a minute that I want this name to be talked about more. And that is Ceddanne Rafaela. This guy, 7
He's
games
heating up.
He's hitting 222 with a 917 OPS, 3 home runs, 4 runs scored, 9 RBIs. Now, my biggest gripe that I have, and I'm pulling it up as I continue to talk about him, is let's put some goddamn respect on him for Rookie of the Year. I mean, American League was Luis Gil, Mason Miller's up there, I get it. But what he is doing, let's just, for instance, I crunched some numbers today and went through all of his stuff. As far as rookies are concerned, he ranks 4th in doubles, 3rd in triples, 3rd in home runs, 1st in RBIs, 2nd in runs scored, and 4th in stolen bases among all rookies. And that's including the National League. But then you go in, and I'm trying to get into my app right now, but the last I saw, he was 5th for American League Rookie of the Year voting, and it was plus 1,200. That is ridiculous that's the odds.
Who's
And
number 1?
it was Luis Gil last I saw. I'm trying to find it right now.
Which he's been falling a little bit, which we discussed in the All-Star voting, but
bounced back last night. But so here it is. American League, it's Wyatt Langford right now, who missed 2 weeks, if not a couple
at
more.
least. Yep.
Luis Gil's 2nd, Colton Cowser's 3rd. And Colton Cowser, realistically, though, he had that one series against the Red Sox that really took off for him.
Yeah, beginning of the year, yep.
He's been good, but, I mean, the 4th one's Willie Abreu, which I like Abreu, big fan of him.
Yeah.
Rafael is the team in RBIs. I mean,
yeah.
The Wyatt Langford one I get, but to have him 5th, and it's plus 800 right now.
What about Rafaela's ability to move?
That's the thing. Like, he can.
You know what I mean, positions wise.
Let's not even talk about shortstop and center field. The fact that it's both positions at Gold Glove caliber.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. And somebody actually tweeted this out today. I didn't fact check it, so if I'm wrong, crucify me on Twitter. Fine. But over his first 390 at bats, compared to Mookie Betts, who Red Sox fans are still pissed about the trade.
Yeah.
Rafael has 13 home runs. Mookie has 10. Rafael has 55 RBIs. Mookie had 43. Both of them had 14 stolen bases. That's over the course of their first 390 career big league at-bats.
They're not a very different build either. If you look at them by eye, not very different.
Both in
size,
both in
speed, athletic ability alone. They're baseball players. They're just athletes.
The other thing about the Red Sox is the rotation back.
Yeah.
In this stretch, the rotation combined is 4-0 with a 1.40 ERA, an under 1 WHIP, and a 7.9 K per 9. Cutter Crawford outdueled Luis Gil last night.
Yep.
Houck didn't look right after the rain delay the other day. He looked good to start the game. And think about what they're doing. That's those stats also include Josh Winkowski, who came out of nowhere again. Bayo. Now again,
Yeah.
we can talk about it. They faced the Marlins. Fine. Are those
Yeah.
elevated? You faced the Padres, who had spanked you for 2 days, and you looked good in that game on Sunday. And it
Yeah.
also includes the 3 game against the Yankees. And
Yeah.
the thing I like about this team is a couple of years ago, they're not winning a game like Friday.
Nope.
Like that game down 3-1, it's over.
Yeah.
They lose on Saturday, and that was 14-4. That
Yeah.
team would have just shipped it in on Sunday.
Folded. Yep. Exactly.
They came out, it was like it never even happened. It was a new day. And that's what this team is doing. And they, I hate to say, they're really, I said third, I said what, third or fourth in my
Yeah.
prediction for the season. They're really making me think they are a playoff team.
Which we can get into a little later, but I'm not disagreeing with you one bit. And they have been. It was nice to see Raffy being Raffy against the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing better on the big stage in New York and just, going in there and having 2 home runs and just being himself
Three.
on a Sunday night game.
Well, 2 on Sunday, but 3 in the series.
Yeah, 3 in the series, 2 on Sunday, which the only way it would have been better is if they were both off Garrett Cole.
Yeah. And Rafael had 2.
Yeah. Yep. They are definitely, the pitching had held them together. And then it was, Duran and O'Neill in spots when he was healthy. And now Devers is hitting, Rafael is hitting. They're all picking each other up. And what about David Hamilton? What do you think of him on that team and in the role he's been playing and, on the base paths?
So I actually wrote an article probably 3 weeks ago now where I literally said, this is when healthy, this needs to be your starting lineup. And I have him at second base.
Yep.
I think I had so Casas healthy first, Devers third, short was Rafaela. Second, I put Hamilton because I loved the idea of the lineup, whether you put Hamilton 8 or 2.
Yeah.
The idea of having Hamilton, Rafaela, Duran, or Rafaela, Duran, Hamilton. It just
Yep.
it changes your whole lineup. Where the reason why I like Hamilton more in the 8 spot is you could have Hamilton, Rafaela, Duran, bases loaded. You go right to Abreu, Devers, O'Neill, Wong,
Yeah.
Casas. Now you're talking possibly 2 runs, realistically, if they all can get on and cause havoc on the base paths.
So, I haven't been paying as close attention to the injured list. Is Story done for the year?
That was the last I saw.
So
I haven't
no opportunity to come back and swing a
doesn't
bat.
seem like it.
Okay. Well,
I've also said then at that point, why don't we see, you could see Nick York. He's at AAA
yeah,
and he's been hitting.
he's been doing well.
You could take a chance and see what. I mean, I think that you're only going to see that if we get an injury to somebody like Hamilton.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I said it on Friday when that 3-run inning for the Yankees happened when Valdez had that double play and he threw it away from Rafaela. And I literally sat here watching the game and I said, get him
Why?
to AAA and call York up. What's the worst
Yeah.
that's going to happen?
Yeah. No, I agree. So yeah, the Red Sox, I didn't mean to derail there and start to kind of take over some of that conversation, but the Red Sox definitely, I agree with them, and I'm glad I focused a little bit more National League heavy, because the Red Sox would have definitely been a team we overlapped with. Anything else to mention about the Red Sox?
No, I mean, the other names that chipped in this week were O'Neill and Yoshida. I mean, you can't forget that game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th off Clay Holmes, who all-star Clay Holmes. And Cutter, giving him those extra day starts. He's made 2 starts lately. He's 2-0 with an 0.69 ERA, just above a .50 WHIP, and a 7.6 K per 9. So he seems like he might be back, and that extra day of rest helped.
No, definitely. The Red Sox are a team that I'm interested in seeing what they do at the deadline, because there's a lot of scuttle about can they win it all this year? What's their level of interest in just being getting into the playoffs versus setting themselves up for next year's run or the year after. So, with that being said, I'll stay in the American League, but I'm going to the Central. and I'm going focused on the Minnesota Twins. They're 8-4 in the last 15 days. But what stood out to me was their batting average over the last 15 days is 309 as a team. The next closest, 271. That's 28, no, 38 points higher than the second place team with a batting average. Runs scored, 82. And then the next, the Astros have 74, but 82 runs scored. They've got 17 home runs, 80 RBIs, and the 308 average just really stood out to me with that team. And it's been done with a lot of different players. Royce Lewis did come back on the injured list, but the rest of that team has been doing just fine hitting the ball. Buxton is one of those guys that I don't know if we'll ever see it, but what could he do in a full season healthy?
Yeah.
But right now, a guy that I had mentioned early on this year, before the Cubs traded for Michael Busch, was Jose Miranda to come over and play first or third. In the last 15 days, he's hitting 579 with 11 runs scored, 6 doubles, a home run, 13 RBIs, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. Buxton's hitting 432 with 4 home runs. Then you've got Carlos Correa, who's hitting 316 with 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. Brooks Lee, who's only played in 5 games, mind you, but he's hitting 474 with a home run, 6 RBIs. Jeffers, the catcher's doing well. Royce Lewis in 6 games. Unfortunately, I think he's been hampered. He's only hitting 130. But he's one of your top guys. They had Austin Martin up for a while. He was struggling as well, hitting just 200. But the rest of this group, Vasquez included, Carlos Vasquez and Jeffers, both of those guys have split the games over the last 12, 6 and 6, 2 home runs apiece, 5 RBIs for Vasquez, 8 for Jeffers. So they're pitching in similar to what you were talking about with the Red Sox. The Minnesota Twins offensively have definitely been playing together as a team. Now, pitching, on the other hand, they're 6th in the league, in the American League, with a 4.07 ERA. But the biggest difference here is they have only allowed 49 earned runs and scored 82. That's a 33 run differential. So it doesn't matter necessarily how your pitching's doing if you're playing up to that level. And the Twins' top pitcher in the last 15 days, really, to be honest, has been a group. But Duran has been their top reliever. He's pitched well. Lopez has struggled. I'm sorry, my screen's kind of glitching on me from my notes. Joe Ryan's got the 4.15 ERA. He's got 3 starts, only 1 win. But the guy that I like the most, and he doesn't have the best stats, and I'm kind of rooting for him because he was jockeyed up and down between AAA, is Simeon Woods Richardson. 3 starts, 1 win, 17 innings, 4.24 ERA. So as a group, the starters haven't necessarily lit the world on fire. I guess their best statistically starter right today in the last 15 days has been Bailey Ober. 2 starts, 1 win, and a 1.50 ERA in 12 innings. But overall, for me, it was their offense and how big of a difference. They're all hitting the ball in the run differential. Their bullpen's been great. Johan Duran, in my eyes, is one of the up-and-coming closers that I'm really excited to watch. He started the year on the IL, but has come back strong. So I think this is a team that'll be, we'll talk about it later, will be active at the deadline for perhaps a starting pitcher. So who's your cold team?
My cold team is the team that just lost to the Red Sox, is the New York Yankees.
Yep.
They continue to go the wrong way. and it's on the pitching side with a 4.42 ERA in their last six and a 2.3 home run per nine. Luis Hill, it's tough. I crunched the numbers from his last two starts over the last 6 games for the Yankees because he's made two starts. He lost both with a 4.22 ERA, but a lot of that was fixed and better because of his start against the Red Sox, where he went 6 2/3, gave up 4 hits, gave up an earned run, didn't allow a walk, and struck out 9. Garrett Cole, though, I mean, he pitched against the Red Sox on Saturday. After that start, he went 4 1/3. His ERA in that start technically was an 8.31.
Yeah.
Stroman, one start this week, 5 earned runs and 5 innings pitched. The lineup hasn't helped. You got the names like Volpe, who was hitting 120 this last week in 6 games, a 354 OPS, doesn't have a bomb, 1 run scored, 4 RBIs. Gleyber Torres, who got hurt in that game on Friday. I don't remember if he played Sunday. I know he was out Saturday. 4 games, a 154 average, a 368 OPS, doesn't have a home run, didn't has 1 run scored and 1 RBI, and the last one was Juan Soto. In 6 games, he's hitting a buck 82 with his OPS is up. It's 697, a home run, 2 runs scored, and 2 RBIs. That name that I did not expect to see on the list when I went through the 3 guys who were struggling for that team. It had been Verdugo. Verdugo had a decent week. I mean, I won't say a great week because realistically, he had the 1 home run in that 14-4 game, which I go back to why wasn't he drilled? But then Devers just copied him and did the same thing around the bases on Saturday. So, but
yeah, it was pretty bad. It's fun. I mean, it's fun to watch because of who it is,
right.
But they have not looked themselves, which is fine.
The question becomes: are they going to be in jeopardy of falling out of this and open the door for the Red Sox to take a spot, and then maybe even the Astros, because the Astros are coming.
So the Astros are a team I want to talk about once we get in a minute about a bold prediction that is interesting, and we'll get to that. But anything else with the Yankees that stood out to you?
No, just they didn't. Aside from that 14-4 game, Ben Rice 3 home runs. That was fun to see because he's from Massachusetts. But I mean, they just don't look right, and
no,
it could be the free fall.
Yep, it's certainly going to be interesting to see what ends up happening in the Bronx, and especially with the Red Sox being where they were. I don't think anyone expected. I think everyone expected perhaps the Blue Jays, to be where the Red Sox are right now, and they're not. So, it's interesting. It's they're definitely a cold team. I think we talked about it previously about Boone's comments about sweeping the Red Sox, or taking the series at the very least in the Bronx, and then come out and get. They only had that one good game. So for my cold team has probably been the cold team most of the year for me personally. And it came down between the Cubs and the Reds. And neither have lived up, and I cover them both. There's other teams that are cold, but none that you really kind of had higher hopes for. I guess maybe perhaps the Diamondbacks, but they're heating up a little bit, and perhaps the Giants. But really, for the Reds, the last 15 days, their batting average is 216 as a team.
Oof.
Not good. Their runs scored, 66. Their runs allowed is 56. So a 10-run differential in regards to what they're scoring versus what they're giving up. But only 52 of those are earned. So hitting for the Reds team themselves has been atrocious outside of Ellie De La Cruz. And with that said, Ellie De La Cruz is not necessarily lighting the world on fire either. He's hitting 269. Their best hitter through this stretch has been Jonathan India, who's hitting 388. But their RBI leader is Steer, who's got 12. De La Cruz only got 7. Yes, he's got the 6, 7 with tonight's game, stolen bases, but he's scoring runs, but he's got 15 or 5 walks and 18 strikeouts. Steer, 13 strikeouts. Fairchild, who just went on the IL, 14. Novelli Marte hitting 150 with 14 strikeouts, 1 walk. Will Benson, 14 strikeouts. Jameer Candelario, 12 strikeouts. So if you've got a starting pitcher in fantasy baseball and he faces the Reds at any point this week, start him. You know he's going to get some Ks at the very least, and they're
Yeah.
not scoring a whole lot of runs. On the flip side, which stinks, if you put TJ Friedel, you put Matt McLean, and you get some more support there, their pitching has not been bad. 2 starts, Andrew Abbott, 2 wins, 2.38 ERA in 11 innings. Now he's got 10 walks, but he's still, that's almost a walk per inning, which isn't great. Carson Spires, 2-1, 4.3 ERA in 3 starts. Graham Ashcroft just got sent down. He was killing them with his 6 ERA. Frankie Montas, 2 starts, 1-1 with a 2.45 ERA. Then you've got Hunter Green, who's 0-2 in 15 innings with a 4.02. Nick Martinez has pitched in relief. He's got a 3.65 or 68. They've got the pitching has been there. They've had some blow up innings. Fernando Cruz in 3.2 has given up 6 earned runs as a reliever, and he was like kind of a setup guy. But for me, with Hunter Green pitching the way he has been, the 4 ERA is right around where he hovers anyway. Diaz has been lights out, hasn't won a game, saved 2 games, pitched in 5 games, 5 innings, hasn't given up an earned run. That was a freeze there. Frankie Montas and Abbott for a cold team having 2 starters, 4 starts, and both of them being under 2.5. You'd like to think that they'd get better than 3-1 out of that.
Yeah.
But they just can't score any runs. And it's been very defeating because you have probably one of the more electrifying players in baseball right now. Young players. He's still got some growing to do, tone down on the strikeouts. But when he gets on base, he manufactures runs.
Yep.
14 hits, 11 runs, just like tonight. He's electric. And Spencer Steer is starting to come back with a 286. It's going to be very interesting to see what these Reds do because Matt McLean is scheduled to come back sometime, hopefully August. And where do you play him? DH is my guess, with India playing decent at second and Marte is locked in at third. This team's just underperforming, and that's why I have them as my cold team because the rest of them don't have, in my eyes, the offensive talent that this group has, and they're getting the pitching from some of their key guys. They're just not getting any run support. Those games when you give up 4 runs, they're not scoring 5.
Yeah.
So the Reds were my cold team. The Cubs, I just want to leave out of it because I'll address them when we get back after this break. But anything else you'd like to add before? Perfect. So if you're interested in talking about baseball and you want to join the group, go to insidethediamonds.com/join us and reach out. Let us know if you have questions, what we hold for standards, what we're looking for, what the formats are, any questions you have about joining the team and writing and what teams are available. Pretty much all teams other than a few are spoken for. And even so, it doesn't mean you can't write opinion pieces. And if you've got minor league interest as well, it all comes into play from single A all the way up to the majors. If there's a team or an area you want to talk about, reach out and CJ can certainly fill you in, or myself can give you a little bit of background and what I've experienced in my short time with Inside the Diamonds. It's a good community. It's fun to talk about baseball daily, and there's a lot of good things coming. So if you're interested in baseball, please go to the website, insidethediamonds.com/join us and let us know your questions. Reply, like, follow, subscribe to anything you see on the podcasts, and write questions there. Email us any questions. We can get back to you on that and let you know exactly what it is we're doing here and what kind of help we need, and see if it's a good fit for you. So if baseball is your thing, let us know and we can help you out. All right, CJ, we've covered hot and cold. We've covered the All-Star game. There's still some stuff we want to cover and try to get through it kind of quick. I want to save the wild card update because I think there's some things that are more relevant right now. Let's talk about Paul Skeens, and I'll get back to the wild card probably to close.
Okay.
Paul Skeens, we talked about in regards to the potential of him starting the All-Star game for the National League. Why don't you talk to us about his current stats and also the position we're talking about with the Pirates right now?
So this season, since he got called up, he's made 10 starts. He's 5-0. Has not suffered a loss. I actually want to look up while I'm going over these what the Pirates record is when he pitches, because that's been a big thing to me lately, is what the team does.
Yeah.
But going over his stats even more, he's got a 2.12 ERA, a 2.78 FIP, just above a 1 WHIP, a 1.8 walk per nine, which is amazing, an 11.8 K per nine. And when he pitches, the Pirates are 7-3. Excuse me. So his last start this past week came against the Mets. He went 7 innings, gave up 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, and 8 Ks. Against the one thing that I actually looked at today and I was amazed by 2 of the best teams in the National League. We can talk about he hasn't faced the Phillies yet, but the 3 top teams are the Phillies, Dodgers, and Braves. And he's faced the Braves and he's faced the Dodgers. Combined against them, he's 1-0 with a 3.27 ERA, a 1.36 WHIP, 17 strikeouts, and 11 innings pitched.
Yeah.
That to me is why he starts the All-Star game, because he's faced some of the big names on the National League side, and he pitched well against both of them. Let him face the cream of the crop in the American League and see what he does, and showcase the arm.
We talked about Strasburg earlier, but is there another pitcher that comes to mind with this kind of hype and this kind of impact so soon that you can think of?
Strasburg, as far as pitcher,
yeah,
not really.
I couldn't think of one earlier when I was thinking about it. I mean, Kerry Wood, but that again is more of just my recency bias. I've watched him through his whole career. He was good when he was young, but he's a top pick for the Pirates last year, plowed through the minor leagues, and basically was on a pitch count. And it appears from what you've said earlier that given where they are in the standings and current makeup of the roster now with some injuries, that he might be going back regardless on a pitch count, which could kind of stymie his stats.
Yeah, it's bugging me right now. I'm trying to think of who else. As I'm watching the Reds game, is there a Reds pitcher that was? And there wasn't.
No, I can't even remember the last time they had a top. I mean, Hunter Green, just because of the way he pitched and the speed, but in his velocity. But
he wasn't.
I couldn't think. DeGrom kind of came out of nowhere. So did Syndergaard.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I could think of with it was Ohtani when he came over.
Yeah.
And again, that's apples and oranges because, he's been injured so often and was focused on hitting. But, yeah, Skeens is a special talent, and I sure do hope he gets the start of the All-Stars. So sorry for interfering there.
No, you're good. So you would actually mention right into it that the state of the Pirates, and this is where it feeds right into how long is he going? What are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because they just lost their other prospect, or not really a prospect, but they're on the big arm. Jared Jones is now down and won't throw for 2 weeks with a grade 2 lat strain. In the season, 5-6 with a 3.56 ERA, a 3.75 FIP, a 111 WHIP, 2.7 walk per nine, and 9.7 K per nine. It was like watching those two back to back was the future of the Pirates, and it still is. But it's tough right now that Jared Jones is going to go down because now the Pirates are going to internally have conversations about, do we have Skeens get shut down at a certain point, especially if they're not in it. I think they have the question no matter what, even if they are in it. But if they're not in it, it definitely is going to be the conversation.
If you shut Skeens down, do you limit Jones? Potentially, outside of the Dodgers, if you talk about pitching in the Braves, I guess, and perhaps the Phillies with Wheeler and Nola, but when you talk youth and up and coming, Jones and Skeens have got to be there in the conversation of the top 4 tandems in the National League at least, if not, top 6 in all of baseball.
Yeah, realistically.
With what if you put them on the Orioles, put Skeens and Jones on the Orioles? Holy sh! Just think about what their run support, a little bit different defensively. I don't like to do that because it's not fair because you can do that with a bunch of pitchers. But the way these guys have pitched dominating for Pittsburgh, their wins, perhaps some of their runs, some of this stuff could be different. But when you're mentioning Skeens getting shut down and Jones with a lat strain, and let's say it is 2 weeks before he starts throwing again, we're talking maybe 3 with a 3.5 weeks until we see him after a rehab start.
Yep.
Back with the Pirates. So you're talking August. If they're out of it in August and you're already talking about Skeens, shouldn't Jones be in the same type of conversation if you're that worried?
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
which sucks because he's been electric.
I almost wonder if that's part of why they're pushing Skeens back. I know I talked about maybe it's like to have home games and get the money in and stuff like that. But like I said, with Cutter Crawford, the Red Sox are doing it with him. Mm-hmm. And some of the Pirates are doing with Skeens and pushing him back. So maybe they don't shut him down. And maybe they just keep pushing starts where he gets more days rest. And
yeah. And who cares if it lines up at home? It's a win-win.
Maybe they're doing it right now because they are kind of still in the conversation for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
As things progress and they fall out of it, we may not see that. We may see him get shut down. But that's my personal opinion. Is I think as long as they're within that, I guess we'll say 7-game window for the wild card spot, I think they're going to still try to go for it because having the future of Skeens and Jones, even with Jones being hurt and getting to the postseason now, getting that experience, if they can do it, why not go for it?
Yeah. Yeah, because, they do have some interesting pieces that could be, to build, but they have some definite youth there and some things to be excited about, but that's just a conversation. I'll be very interested to see what the Pirates do over the next month with Skeens when Jones comes back. How do they handle that? That'll be very interesting to me because I'm already excited to see their future, and this year's not even over yet. And I shouldn't be excited for that, but the way they've pitched has, definitely, they're the two guys for Pittsburgh. If they're playing and say the Cubs aren't on, or even if the Cubs and Reds are on, I'm still swapping back. And sometimes I've got, multiple screens up and they're the ones leading so I can see them pitch.
Yeah. Paul Skeens starting as must-watch TV no matter what. I mean, I find myself, as a Red Sox Tigers fan, usually I'll have Red Sox big TV, Tigers little TV. But if Skeens is pitching, the Tigers get bumped.
Yeah.
Maybe
unless it's school.
With that, but it might have to do with the fact that they're not that great this year.
I've been nice. I've left you alone because unfortunately my Cubs have been actually worse. So I really don't have a leg to stand on. So with that said, that kind of leads in, and we've discussed it a little bit. Let's talk about the NL wild card update
So
and where things stand.
I talked about this, what, 2 weeks ago, last week? But I was
Mm-hmm.
really, with you covering the National League, I was hoping after we had talked, I think before and after the podcast last week, planning for you to be back this week, I saved it to have you
Yep.
here talk about it. Um, so right now, as things stand entering today, I know there's been the Pirates played earlier against the Mets and the Cardinals played earlier, and I think the couple other games Reds are playing right now. So things might have changed after I did this, but as things stand right now, the Cardinals, and I included the Fangraphs playoff percentage.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals hold the fifth seed, the second wild card spot, and they hold it by a half a game.
Yep.
They have a 50.1% chance to make the playoffs. The Padres hold the sixth seed in the final wild card spot at a 56% chance to make the playoffs. Diamondbacks have a 35.7, 2 games back. Mets 2 games back have a 36.3%. Giants have a 3.5 games back have a 22.9% chance. Then we get to the teams that we've started talking about. The Pirates have a 4.5 games back and have a 6.2% chance. The Reds are 5 back with a 6.3% chance. The Nationals are 5 back with a 1.0% chance. And finally, the Cubs are 5.5 games back with a 6.7% chance.
They
Those
have a higher percent of the other teams that are above them right now.
the
Few of them.
Pirates, the other teams in the Central, yes.
Yeah. I
The
find that
Giants.
interesting.
I found it interesting the Mets are above the Diamondbacks for the percent chance.
Yeah. But yes. And that's, to me, the Diamondbacks are one of those hotter teams, and it had to do with their bats. But I think there's some things that are going on that I hope next Monday, when we get together, which we'll discuss here in a few minutes, that we can discuss a few more of these things, these teams that are on the fringe, and some of the things that are being said, because some of these teams that are on the fringe have some pieces that could be moved. And I want to discuss that with you next Monday night during the Derby, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But who would you say? You said the Fangraphs. I've got my two. Who do you think that are on the outside looking in of the six right now? And we'll focus on the wild card. Of the 3 wild card spots, who can you see stepping in? And let's start with one, because I think the Braves right now have got that locked up. So let's focus on one. Who do you
Yeah.
think could unseat either the Padres and Cardinals?
Realistically, I think the Mets, if they keep playing the way they have, they've hit a scuffle now. They're 4-6 in their
Mm-hmm.
last 10. That includes today's loss to the
Yep.
Pirates. But I like Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo. The pitching is a question mark for me. Severino didn't look good the other day. Um,
Mm-mm.
the Pirates losing Jones, I think, keeps them out of it. And to be honest with you, I have a strange feeling the Brewers are not winning the Central. I think the Cardinals catch them, and I think the Brewers may fall out of the playoff conversation.
The Cardinals are one of the hottest teams in baseball at 7-3 over the last 10. When you look just strictly record wise.
That's including today, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they have a chance to catch the Brewers. And I think the Brewers have been very surprised. I mean, like we talked about them finishing at the bottom of the
Mm-hmm.
division this year. So, I mean, they still can. I mean, they could have a Yankee slide. And
Yeah.
I really think something's going to happen where that comes. Now they're at the point of the trade deadline where they can go get something, but they lost both pieces they got in the Corbin Burns trade. Both of them are on the injured list now.
Guess who's
The
coming
injured
back, though? Guess who just started throwing live BP?
Gasser.
Devin Williams.
Oh, jeez. I'm
So
excited about
I know
Gasser.
their starting pitching is questionable.
The bullpen is the big thing.
Yeah, but you throw Devin Williams back, and it's a back injury. Which is still just as crucial to pitching because of the bending and the strain, but it was fractured. He hasn't
Mhm.
pitched in a long time, so he's not. Even if he does come back in end of July, early August, he's not going to be going out night after night for save opportunities. He's going to probably get an opportunity here, opportunity there until we get into September. And it's all going to depend on where they sit in this race. But of all these teams looking at it and knowing the Central Division like I do, they're an injury away or someone going on a cold streak. Bryce Terang, who we talked about, is hitting 280 something. Last year he hit 230 something. 50 points better. At
Yep.
some point, does he come back down to life? If he does, that means he's not getting on base. He's not manufacturing the runs. Christian Yelich, he's probably got at least one more stint on the IL coming.
Yep, that was the name I was thinking of.
So, and Jackson Churio is going to be a great player, but he hasn't lived up to the hype. Contreras behind the plate, Freddie Peralta pitching. I mean, if Freddie Peralta ever has to miss a couple starts, that slide is going to be bad. They're 5-5 over their last 10 games. They do have a 79 run differential, but that's of the division leaders. It's 25 runs worse than the Dodgers.
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
Cardinals are the team that I can see winning that division. But if the Brewers fall out, who gets in other than the Mets, then, in your opinion?
that's where we run into the question of the Pirates can get hot, the Reds can get hot. Those are the two. I'm on the train of that whole Montgomery and Snell issue is going to drag down those two teams in the Giants and the Diamondbacks. And in fact, I have the Diamondbacks Braves game on right now, and Austin Riley just hit a bomb. And the
He's so
Diamondbacks
good.
just, I'm not. They got hot at the right time, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to see this year. Is we're going to see one of these. I don't know what 7 teams. I don't think it's going to be the Nationals, although I do love James Wood being called up
Yeah,
and what he's
they're
done
a fun
so
team
far.
to watch.
They are, and they have a lot more bats coming.
Yep.
That they definitely with. You want to talk about this? I think coming up in either next week or the week after. Or no, it has to be next week. Um, the draft. They need to get a pitcher.
Yep.
They need to address a top arm pitcher because they don't have much in their system coming up. I mean,
No.
Gore looks good. Mitchell Parker's looked good this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I just don't think they have enough of the pieces to make a run to get into the postseason. I could be wrong. Like they could have the Diamondbacks run and just shock all of us. James Wood could be this year's Corbin Carroll. Realistically, could be a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
But
Jesus, what a fall he's had, by the way. But
yeah, I just don't think. And I'm sorry to say this for you, but I don't think the Nationals and the Cubs realistically have a chance. Personally, um,
no, so I'll get to that, the Cubs here in a minute. Once, so you've got the
the more I think about it, I really think
Mets getting in, and then who's the
Padres.
second team? Because you
The
said
Padres.
okay, so the Padres are going to hold strong.
The Padres will be 5, and the Mets will be 6.
Okay, so that's a shift. So here's where I'm at right now, and some of this all plays out with the Diamondbacks getting hot. 6 of their last 10, they've got an +8 run differential. Now the key to this, if they can get in, and this would be the 6 taking over for the Brewers. And this actually, with this said, if the Diamondbacks were to get in, they would actually end up kicking out the Padres because of the division. I think they would actually end up fighting each other, getting out. The only way the Diamondbacks can return to the playoffs is if Eugenio Suarez can start producing, and they have to get better pitching. But they need Corbin Carroll and Eugenio Suarez to start hitting. Gurriel's doing well, and Christian Walker needs to keep it up, as does Ketel Marte. And Gabriel Moreno is back
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and hitting well. So the Diamondbacks are a team that I see that just on I like them better than the Mets just because I like their pitching slightly better. I see
Yeah.
their offense. I see their offense kind of similar in a certain sense, um, and the fact that I don't think they're going to panic because they've been there.
Hmm.
So my other team, the team that I really think that it's either going to be the Diamondbacks or the Padres. I don't think you see three teams from the West. It's just me personally.
Hmm.
If the Brewers drop out, the team I see taking over is the Reds. I think the Reds have the ability, when healthy, to go on a run like the Diamondbacks. Their run differential is plus 14. All the other teams in the out of the playoffs, other than the Diamondbacks, are all negative. The Mets are -2. The rest are all -20 something. So if Dela Cruz can cut the strikeouts back, Marte can start to hit, McLean comes back, stays healthy, and can hit and fill in at that DH spot. But the key to that is TJ Friedl. If TJ Friedl can come in and actually stay healthy, playing center field and hit 260, 270, that team's a better team. I mentioned, and we'll get into this next week. Next week, CJ and I want to be, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end. Next week, we want to do a live show, leave on Facebook during the Home Run Derby, where we'll take all of your questions in regards to the hot stove, who could be moved, who could be doing this, who could be doing that, who stays, who goes, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the wild card after this past week as well. But with the Reds, I mentioned Brent Rooker. They just traded for Austin Slater, and quite frankly, I think that's more for the cash than it is the player. And I don't know what the cash was. They haven't said yet. But Brent Rooker is a right-handed power bat, allowing Steer to play first, Rooker in left. When you want Candelario to play first, move Steer to left, move Rooker to right, and that let Friedel play center. Will Benson has been, maybe he's a good left-handed bat that can be a platoon, but Rooker there with his power, putting him in the middle of that lineup, because even Tyler Stevenson hasn't done much. But with the way their pitching staff, with Nick Lodolo coming back, Abbott pitching well, Spires actually pitching well, Martinez pitching well out of the bullpen, you've got Diaz who's been pitching well. I think if they went out and get a bat, and then I would go out and get another reliever. I wrote an article I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about Estevez from the Angels, bringing him in to be a setup guy for Diaz. If you get Diaz, Estevez, and Cruz prior to these last 15 days had been lights out, that's the 7th, 8th, and 9th guy. And you've got Lefty and Sam Maul and Justin Wilson who've been pitching well. That bullpen looks a lot different with Estevez in there, especially with Abbott, Lodolo, Montez, and Hunter Green. They have the talent, not saying they would, but they have the talent. I could see them making a run over and seeing the Brewers fall out and finishing third in that Central, and the Cardinals winning the division.
Hear me out on this because you just mentioned Estevez to the Reds. For the Cardinals to win
Yep.
the division, I have a move that would get them the division, and that's Jack Flaherty returning home.
That is something I saw Jack Flaherty go into the Red Sox, which we'll get into more in depth with more of these type moves. But that one I like. But I wouldn't be opposed to them adding Estevez either. I thought they can grab another bullpen arm too, because
Yeah.
Ryan Hensley has never really stayed fully healthy. But the Cardinals are a team right now that you add Flaherty back to that, especially the way he's pitching. You throw him at the bottom of that rotation. What the hell?
Yeah.
Sonny Gray is the leader.
Put him as a
So
4.
4 or 5 and let him just go out and pitch 5 innings, get his 7 to 9 strikeouts, and give him some runs. So those are the two teams for me. I mean, I can see where you're going with the Mets. Would I love to see if Jared Jones was healthy and things
I'd
were a
go
little
Pirates.
different? Yeah, because I think they could make some moves there. There's some players there that they could go after and make some moves. One of the guys that I know, well, the Cubs and Pirates do have a reputation of trading, but Nico Horner to play second,
Yep.
making some room there. He's under control to 2026. Again, we'll get into the trades, and I just want to kind of just touch on that next week. Stay tuned. If you listen to the podcast, you follow the website, just pay attention to our social channels because we will be sending out info and we'll be talking live during the batting home run derby about some of these pending trade moves, where guys should fit, some bold predictions, but also just kind of talking baseball during the home run derby and kind of the week that was. So those are the predictions for the NL. We'll cover the AL wild card perhaps during the live broadcast. We can talk openly during some commercial breaks. We'll have to strategically put that. So before we get to the prospects and the series to watch, why don't you give us a recap of the Phillies and Braves that you discussed at length last podcast?
So I actually thought the Phillies were going to win this series, but the Braves, are they back? Or is this just a situation of the Phillies not having Bryce Harper and Schwarber? The Braves took 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They outscored the Phillies 17-9. Going through it, Friday, pitchers duel. It was Nola versus Fried. Nola outdueled Fried, and Fried struggled. I mean, I don't know what that was. Nola went 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 earned runs, didn't allow a walk, and struck out 8. Fried went 6, gave up 11 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, and 4 Ks. Saturday, Swellenbacher, who has been fun to watch as well, very underrated.
Yep.
He outdueled Ranger Suarez, and I'll get to Suarez in a second.
Yeah.
But 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 0 walks, and 6 Ks. He is, to me, somebody that if your team's not playing and the Braves are on, tune into one of his starts because he is something to watch.
Yep.
Suarez, on the other hand, I don't know what's going on there. His last 3 starts, he's 0-2 with a 7.47 ERA, which he was a guy who was in the conversation with Ronaldo Lopez, who we mentioned earlier, about, he had one of the best ERAs in baseball. He's got a 1.78 whip, 11 Ks, and 15 2/3 innings. 15 2/3 innings over 3 starts is not good.
No.
Move right along. The name I just mentioned, Ronaldo Lopez. He pitched on Sunday in the finale, 6 innings, gave up 2 hits, didn't allow a run, walked 3, and struck out 6. So the ERA continues to go down. The big bat, and this is, we talked about when we did our season preview. I had the Braves as my World Series team, and we talked about it. I think one of the last times you were on when Acuna got hurt. That does that hurt them? Is the Phillies the team to beat? I don't know what it is about this Braves team, but Acuna gets hurt and they just play better.
Yeah.
Like they won the World Series the year Acuna got hurt, and it's names like Ozzy Albies in this series. Hit 455 with a 1.500 OPS. He had 2 home runs, 5 runs scored, and 4 RBIs.
Yeah.
Marcelo Zuna, who was announced today to be a part of the home run derby, and actually, honestly, might be my pick to win the home run derby.
Yeah. Of all people, I mean, yeah.
273 average, a 1.242 OPS. He had 2 home runs, 2 runs scored, and 5 RBIs in this series.
Yeah.
2 bats. I mean, Ozuna's been doing it all year. And I hate saying you lose somebody like Acuna because I like Acuna. Acuna's one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah.
And I cover a lot of the Brave stuff as well. And I mentioned it when they got Duvall that something happens, they at least have the depth. And that's proven to be the thing. They lost Acuna. They have depth. They lost Strider. They have the depth. Ronaldo Lopez has stepped up to be a number 3 guy. You got realistically going to a playoff series right now. Say they do get that, they don't win the division. They end up as the first wild card, the 4 seed. They would play the 5 seed, and it's a best of 3. So you'd have Fried, Sale, and Lopez. And you may not even throw Lopez. Lopez may get.
No, you could. That's what I was. As you're talking through this, and we talk about what's more impressive, their pitching depth or their lineup depth, in your opinion?
I want to say their pitching depth because the lineup depth we saw it with the ads they made, like adding Duvall late because nobody wanted him, and he's quietly been okay for them. He's filled in now with obviously. Actually, I shouldn't say he's been okay. I look up now; he's hitting. He's got a $184 average. But you got these guys that move. Like they made the moves to add in case something happened to Acuna or somebody like that. Whereas the pitching, like who knew Reynaldo Lopez was going to do what he's doing?
Yeah.
Who saw Schwellenbach coming up and doing his thing?
Yeah.
Smith Shawver didn't work out, so they had to call up Schwellenbach.
Yeah.
They still have another arm. I believe he's in Double A, but he should be getting a call up to Triple A soon. Is Hurston Waldrop, who they just
Yeah.
drafted either last year or the year before. Like just they're a team when you look at the what they did in the last couple of years of they extended their big prospects to long-term deals. None of those really were pitchers.
No.
We're approaching the point right now where Max Fried is a free agent after this year unless they get an extension done. And
Austin.
yeah, we've been saying that for the longest time. They need a left-handed arm.
Yep.
But, now we're looking at this team where a lot of their top prospects are starting pitchers. And they just claimed, I saw the other day, Rosario's back, who was an NLCS MVP for them. Was it NLCS or World Series? I don't remember. But he was
Me either.
playoff MVP in one of those two series for them, and they added him back. So, again, another thing where that's when you ask the question of depth. They're bringing in the depth pieces.
Yeah.
Where from the pitching side of things, they have the depth pieces that are just coming up and producing. So that's why, to me, the fact that they can do what they're doing, it's the opposite of the Marlins. The Marlins have nothing but arms, but they can't seem to figure it out. Just
No.
every time they get a pitcher that's good or decent, they get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, Max Meyer was up here for a while. I think he got hurt at one point. Lazaro's hurt now, who was their big trade piece.
Yeah.
And I saw today, Jazz Chisholm's on the block now.
Yeah. And, they're Scott, is it Tanner Scott?
Tanner Scott.
That lefty. He's their pitching arm to go.
Yep.
But Chisholm, I can't wait for the home run derby because all I've been thinking about 4th of July on, and now all through social media, teams are chattering this, that, and that. A lot of it's noise because people, they have to assume what's going to happen. Is it going to be a quiet deadline like last year? Is this going to be the most busy? Because if you look at it, we just discussed the National League. There's so much. There's not a huge gap there. There's a lot of teams that are close. There's some that'll take themselves out. But it's going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to next Monday night doing that live. And
we
whether
got what? 3 weeks till the All-Star. 3 weeks till deadline.
July 31st, right?
I think it's Tuesday of that week.
So it's 21 days. So maybe what we can do, we can talk about it, but maybe we do something that Monday night during, maybe we do we do a pod early, and then we jump on and maybe follow a game or two and just kind of talk about different stuff and have the pod be a little shorter. We can get into that. This is the fun time. This is really for me outside of, and again, I apologize for cutting you off with your recap, but that series was a good one, and I was shocked as well. But the Braves are just a team that I think don't sleep on them. Yeah. Don't sleep on the beast. Their pitching is there. But for me, opening day is always fun. Spring training games get going. The opening day comes. Then there's that lull, April, May lull. 4th of July, All-Star game. Then you've got the trade deadline, and now it's on.
Yep.
Right? Everyone's fighting for that finish. This is when it gets really exciting. And I can't wait for what's to come. I'm really looking to I've had a blast tonight, mind you, getting back talking about this is a hell of a lot better than talking about work 24/7. So this has been great. I'm really looking at diving into this and seeing what we can do, and whether that's putting out more content for you guys in different times, doing something, shorting. This is a long podcast and we do apologize, but as you can see, there's a lot to cover. A lot of stuff going on. So we've been working on it. The last thing, the last big thing to discuss is your prospects for this week.
I went 4 and I couldn't figure out the pitcher I wanted to go with.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through my prospects of the week, and then I got 2 stories that I want to get to as far as the top 100 from this past week. We're going to start with, I have one hitter, and that is Max Clark in single A for the Tigers, who was drafted last season in to me was a head scratching pick because I thought Wyatt Langford was the lock to be there. Um, Last week he went 9 for 19, had a double, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, 3 walks, 4 runs, and a stolen base. This season he's hitting 281 with a 782 OPS, 6 home runs, 55 RBIs, 50 runs scored, and 24 stolen bases. This
Wow.
kid keeps doing this. If he can do this at the next level, I mean, right now he's at single A, so high A is next for him. If
Yep.
he can keep doing this, I don't see an issue with him being a double A, and we could be seeing him. My guess is his ETA is 2026, maybe 2027,
Yep.
probably along those lines. But I'll go right into the pitchers. One of them is one I think you wrote the player profile for. That's Jacob Misarowski from the
Yeah.
Brewers, playing at Double A. Last week, 6 1/3, 1 earned run, 2 hits, 10 walks, 10 Ks. This season,
Did you say 10 walks?
no, 2 walks, 10 Ks.
Okay.
I'm not putting him in the pitcher of the week if he's got 10 walks.
No, I was gonna say, I didn't think so.
He's 2-3 with a 3.38 ERA, a 1.28 WHIP, but the 88 strikeouts in 66 and 2/3 innings is nice to see.
Triple A's got to be calling soon, right?
You would think. The next one, also Max Clark is the 11th ranked prospect. That'll be changing with Skeens graduating.
Yeah.
Misrowski is 22nd. The next one is the 37th ranked prospect, which is Chase Dolander, a guy I am very high on for the Rockies at high A. Last week, he went 5 innings, gave up 6 hits, did not allow a run, walked 1, and struck out 10.
Boy, they need an arm, don't they?
Wait for the stats of the season: 4-1 with a 2.82 ERA, a 1.25 WHIP, 102 strikeouts, and 67 innings pitched.
Holy shit.
That's another one, Double A. And the second I see Double A and the Yard Goats are coming to New Hampshire, I'll be there.
Go. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep, not missing that one. The final one is another one. I don't know how this team does it. They just produce arms. It's Bubba Chandler, and he's the 63rd ranked prospect pitching at Double A for Altoona for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
Last week, did it again. I think I've mentioned him the last 3 weeks. He just keeps doing this. 7 2/3, 2 hits, didn't allow a run, and he struck out 7.
Yeah.
Now he's improved to 5. I think since I started doing him and including him in the last 3 weeks, he went from 2-5 to 5-5. He's got a 3.65 ERA, a 1.04 WHIP, 74 strikeouts, and 61 and 2/3 innings.
Wow.
So the pitching is
Pittsburgh's got some depth in their system.
I saw somebody did a mock trade for Vlad Guerrero Jr., which I wrote about, and they mentioned Bubba Chandler, and I was like, I would not do that. There's another prospect who's just below him, and that's Anthony Solometo.
Yeah.
I would think about including him. The only issue I have with the possibility of including him, if that was a thing, if they get into the point of being buyers, is that's the left-handed arm you're expecting to be a part of this rotation.
Yeah.
Whereas you got
Because Perez isn't going to be around forever. So, yeah.
right, and with Jones, Skeens, and Chandler, they're all righties.
Yeah.
And you need a lefty in there.
Yeah.
The two stories for the prospects for the week that I want to get into is one of them is my 35th ranked prospect is Brady House.
Yep.
He, from the Washington National system. He just got promoted to AAA.
Okay.
And this season at Double A Harrisburg, he's hitting 234 with a 733 OPS. He has 13 home runs, which is the third most in the Eastern League. He has 34 RBIs, 38 runs scored, which was 21st in the Eastern League. He had 5 stolen bases. So now, think about it. They moved up James Wood to the big leagues. They called up Cruz not long before that happened. And he is at AAA now. And now they call up the third baseman, Brady House. So now we're talking next season. We could have Wood, Cruz, and House all in the Nationals with the pitching of Warren Mitchell, Parker. They could be a year, 2 years away from really being in the conversation of maybe not winning the division, but really, right now what did we say they were? They were five back with a 1% chance of making the playoffs. If they're all there next year, we could be talking about them being 3 back at this point with a 6, 7, 8% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's coming. If you're a Nationals fan, that time is coming where we're talking like you had the Harper leaves and you have Soto and you had Rendon. Like that time is coming again.
Yeah. It is. Not long off.
Nope. The final story for the prospects of the week is the 13th ranked prospect from the Tigers, Jackson Jobe. Finally made his return to Double A after pitching at West Michigan. And in his return, he went 5 innings, allowed 1 earned run, gave up 3 hits, walked 1, and struck out 8. Not bad for a return up to Double A.
Absolutely not. There's a lot of talent in the minors. And for anyone listening that is familiar with our site, I highly recommend, if you're interested in minor league baseball, follow CJ's stuff. He's got the Eastern League, and you do the
International League.
But then he also follow and check out the prospects. All the prospects have, for the most part, have a bio page. If you're interested in some of the stuff and learn a little bit more, play around with that, spend some time, learn. A lot of time and effort and a lot of coverage that CJ provides there. So don't be shy. Go in, horse around in there, and learn about some of these guys that are soon to be coming up. So with the prospects all taken care of, what is your big week? Let's cut this a little shorter in sake of time. Your during the week series, your weekend series, one each, and I'll do one each, and then we can let everyone off the hook for the night.
So I'll do my week one. It's Dodgers Phillies.
Yep.
I mean, it's the two best teams in the National League realistically, and you get a possible NLCS series preview.
Yep.
The weekend, you want me to cut it down to one?
I'll allow you to have two. I'll be that kind of guy.
All right. I'll go with one from each league.
Okay.
Let's go with Braves Padres from the National League.
Yep, I've got that one, so that cuts one of mine out.
All right. And the other one, Royals Red Sox. Just because those two teams are fighting for the last wild card spot.
I'll be there Saturday.
Good.
So that was one for me. And I agree. That's going to be an interesting one. I believe they both have the same record as of right now. They both have 49 wins. I believe. I could be wrong.
I think the Red Sox have one last loss.
Yeah. Royals are 49 and 43. Red Sox are 49 and 40.
Okay.
So the Red Sox are 3 games better, but 3 games behind. So my during the week series is a little bit different. It's the Yankees-Rays, because the Rays aren't playing bad baseball. Because if the Rays go in and win that series versus the Yankees, and the Red Sox can go and win the series against the A's, the Red Sox keep creeping. So that's my during the week. My weekend one, I did have both the Braves, Padres. I also had the Red Sox Royals, simply because I was going. But the other one, I guess, for me is more based off of what I hope they do during the week. If the Reds can take care of business against the Lonely Rockies and win that series 3-1, that would put them at 46 and 49. Then they play the Marlins for 3 games. If they can win that and somehow find a way to go to the All-Star break at 500, they've now put themselves in position coming out of the All-Star break to hit the ground running. The pitching has been there. So that's one for me. They're both weak opponents, but this is something I've talked about a little bit in articles, is the Reds should have been taking care of business a few series ago. They should have been doing this. Can they do it now? Because if they can't do it now, it's not going to get any better after the All-Star break, because they're not going to invest. So those are my two on top of the two you talked about. So to wrap this up tonight, again, follow, subscribe, like all our socials. Pay attention to the podcast. Pay attention to social media in the upcoming days, because we are going to do something Monday night during the Home Run Derby that we've not done yet. We're going to do a live show, I believe on Facebook Live. We'll take questions. We want to interact with everyone that wants to. We want to talk about the Home Run Derby. If we can jump on in time ahead of it, it'd be great to do our picks so that we can pick one each and see how that goes. And then we'll talk about the AL wild card, and we'll talk about some trades. some moves that could be made, ones we want to see happen, ones we don't want to see happen, and just some of the rumors are flying around. We'll talk baseball live, we'll take questions, and we'll just kind of have some fun interacting and see how that goes. And if that goes well, and that's something that people like, we've toyed around with it before, doing something similar during a big inning. So maybe that's something we can do. This will be a test, but I'm really looking forward to it. One, to be back involved and talking baseball with you and getting back into the groove of things. So I'm really looking forward to that. Can't wait to spend the rest of the week talking to you, kind of planning things out, talking it through, and see how it would actually work. But other than that, like I said, it's great to be back. A lot of stuff going on. This is a great time in baseball. To be getting back into the groove with the trade deadline, all-star game break, and then the push to the pennant. So that I'm just thankful to be back. Appreciate you keeping things going while I've been tied up, busy and away. So anything else you'd like to add before we close out for the night?
One final thing, and
Yes,
it's not a
sir.
series, but Friday night, if you're sitting at home, whatever, get out of work after your first full week back after the holiday weekend, um, there is a game with potentially one of the best pitching matchups of the season.
Okay.
And it's Tigers and the Dodgers, Skubal versus Glasnow.
Really?
6:40 start time. So it's not your typical Dodgers 10 o'clock at night. So if you're on the East Coast and you want to see the Dodgers actually play, you're going to get a chance to, and you're going to get to see those bats. Shohei, a left-handed hitter, against Tarek Skubal, a left-handed pitcher. We're going to see a great matchup. And you get to see really what Tarek Skubal is all about if you have
Yep.
had a chance to. So that was my only thing was I wanted to just include that fantastic. I mean, this
Yeah,
guy who
that's a
loves
great
pitching.
matchup. Yeah.
Tune in. We got great pitching coming up. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Like we've said, like, subscribe, chat, follow us on all the social channels. CJ, thank you again. I appreciate everything while I've been out, taking care of things, and really glad to be talking baseball with you and looking forward to Monday night. Pay attention, folks. All the socials, we'll be sending out info in regards to what's going to go down Monday night during the Home Run Derby. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Until next time, this is Inside the Diamonds podcast. Have a good night.
Glad you're back, CJ. I mean, JC. Let's do it again for
You're
Monday.
CJ.
Wow. I'm confused on who I am. Let's
There
run it
you
back
go.
on Monday, and I'll remember who I am that time.
Perfect.
Later, guys.
See ya.